Now, a US delegation will preside over talks on tensions with Iran, as well as the war in Ukraine on Tuesday in Geneva. The news comes as day 3 of the Munich Security Conference is underway. European leaders have been discussing ways to bolster defence and establish the continent as an autonomous global power. The discussions come as concerns grow that Russia still poses a long-term threat to Europe. Iran wasn't invited to the Munich Security Conference. In a post on X, the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has criticised Europe for its policies towards Tehran, saying it is sad to see the usually serious Munich Security Conference turned into the Munich circus when it comes to Iran. Once a key interlocutor, Europe is now nowhere to be seen. Instead, our friends in the region are far more effective and helpful than an empty-handed and peripheral E3. Abbas is a senior research fellow at the Centre for Middle East Strategic Studies. He joins us live from Tehran. A very warm welcome to the programme. So the Munich Security Conference is now the Munich circus, says Abbas Araghchi, in which the likes of Berlin, he says, have surrendered to regional policy to Israel, and the powers that helped broker the past nuclear deal, the UK, France and Germany, are now peripheral and paralysed. I mean, that is a blistering assessment. What does it say to you?
Neil, this indicates Iran's dissatisfactions with the role that Europeans once played as a facilitator, now shifting to spoiler in terms of any diplomatic process with Iran. And this also indicates that the nuclear mediation has been moving from Europe to West Asia, whereby regional players are doing the heavy lifting of the diplomatic process. They are contributing to the process as well. And that so-called E3 mechanism now seems to be not to be a viable channel for resolution. And this indicates that also the relations between Iran and Europe are not in good terms. And Iran had earlier said that this will have consequences, including, the irrelevance of Europe to any diplomatic efforts in relation to Tehran. So that's why I think we had the reaction from Iranian foreign minister, specifically at the moment that Iran is entering a new round of negotiations with the United States in Geneva.
Let's talk about all the military pressure that's building in the region, because on Friday, Donald Trump said change in power in Iran, quote, would be the best thing that could happen. I mean, he seems to be maintaining multiple positions simultaneously. Negotiator-in-chief on the one hand, commander-in-chief of the largest army on the planet on the other hand. Is this just a serious threat, or is this a serious threat in Iran's mind, or is it just psychological pressure? How is it being read where you are?
It seems to be aiming to somehow impacting the calculus here in Tehran in order to coerce Tehran into an agreement with American terms. But in the meantime, as I said, yes, multiple positions are being heard from the American side. And the most difficult, issue here in the process seems to be the heavy canopy of uncertainty which has been casting down over the negotiating table, because these policy shifts, coming from the American side, has been exacerbating the situation, making Iran doubtful if the U.S. is genuinely seeking diplomacy with Iran or not. But this military buildup in the region cannot last for long. So they aim to put pressure, or if it does fail to, achieve those American terms at the negotiating table, maybe turn into another military aggression against the country, which was the case back in June 2025.
With the US delegation, we know it's going to be led by Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner arriving on Tuesday. What do you think is the single most important concession that Tehran needs to be able to show it's capable of making in order to stay at the negotiating table?
Well, the most important issues which we can think of is that issues related to the nuclear technicalities, including the enrichment issues, as well as the highly enriched uranium stockpile, can be addressed at the negotiating table.
But in terms of concessions, I'm interested in.
One thing which we have been recently hearing from Iranian officials is related to the enrichment level. They have been saying that they are open to transparency or let's say, a so-called reassuring agreement with the United States about the level of enrichment. This indicates that Tehran is saying that it's, confident about the nature of its nuclear activities. So it has no fear or it is not concerned to reach a kind of agreement on the level of nuclear enrichment with the United States. But we have been hearing a lot about this. What we have not been hearing is that what the United States is willing to offer. Also, what Iran gets in return is also significant, specifically in terms of removing the sanctions, not just removing the shadow of the war. So I was hearing from Iranian sources that they will be going to Geneva with specific questions and also initiatives in relation to nuclear activities, as well as the lifting of the sanctions. And the mixture of the team will be including, political, legal, technical, as well as economic officials present in the team in order to address diverse range of issues, but the most specific ones will be the nuclear activities as well as the lifting of the sanctions.
Okay, so they're sending a highly relevant and highly experienced team into this next phase of negotiations. None of that changes the possibility of another aircraft carrier strike force entering the region. The USS Gerald R. Ford is on its way. We're talking about 10,000 military personnel, 90 fixed-wing aircraft escorted by 3 destroyers, a nuclear-powered submarine, all of it bristling with Tomahawk missiles. It's extraordinary to think of the military hardware that's already there. We've already got the USS Abraham Lincoln with a similar number of personnel. Doubling that up would be extraordinary military pressure. I wonder if Iran maintains its ballistic missile capabilities are non-negotiable. Is there absolutely any scenario, such as, for instance, regional security guarantees, where Iran might shift its position?
Contrary to what we have been hearing in the rhetoric of the American officials, what I'm hearing is that missile issue as well as the regional matters are off the table. For Iran, ballistic missile issue is a national security matter. As far as a war and a military option is the matter of survival for the Islamic Republic, also the ballistic missiles is related to existential battle part of for survival. So if Iran, makes compromises in relation to ballistic missiles, that will be similar to committing suicide out of the fear of death. So that's why Iran is insisting that that is a red line for Iran. And even, the dangers of such a compromise could be much more devastating for the country even than compared to a military war. So that's why we are hearing from Iranian officials yet that the scope is only limited to the nuclear matter. And this is something which Americans also accepted before coming to Muscat. And those contradictory statements or remarks from American officials are not, in accordance to what Iranian negotiators are hearing from the American negotiators. So if they keep the same procedure that they had in negotiating room, we can be a bit hopeful unless this policy shift will not be that much helpful.
Okay, Abbas Aslani, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for Middle East Strategic Studies, joining us from Tehran. Many thanks for joining us. A pleasure.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.